This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
The United States and China on Monday extended a tariff truce for another 90 days, staving off triple-digit duties on each other's goods as U.S. retailers get ready to ramp up inventories ahead of the critical end-of-year holiday season. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on his Truth Social platform that he had signed an executive order suspending the imposition of higher tariffs until 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 05:01 GMT, on November 10, with all other elements of the truce to remain in place. China's Commerce Ministry issued a parallel pause on extra tariffs early on Tuesday, also postponing for 90 days the addition of U.S. firms it had targeted in April to trade and investment restriction lists.
Oil prices rose on Tuesday as the United States and China extended a pause on higher tariffs, easing concerns an escalation of their trade war would disrupt their economies and crimp fuel demand in the world's two largest oil consumers. Brent crude futures gained 14 cents, or 0.2%, to $66.77 a barrel by 0643 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 8 cents, or 0.1%, to $64.04. U.S. President Donald Trump extended a tariff truce with China to November 10, staving off triple-digit duties on Chinese goods as U.S. retailers prepared for the critical end-of-year holiday season.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
India's drive to produce more ethanol is leading its farmers to switch away from growing oilseeds, undermining government efforts in the world's largest buyer of cooking oils to reduce costly imports. Helped by record corn and rice harvests, New Delhi is using more of the grains to make ethanol and meet its target of blending 20% of the biofuel additive with gasoline. The process, however, produces distillers' dried grains with solubles, DDGS, a protein-rich byproduct that is flooding the animal feed market. The DDGS glut is weakening demand for oil meals, depressing oilseed prices and prompting farmers in the South Asian nation to plant more corn and rice in place of soybeans and groundnuts, despite New Delhi's push to grow more of the oilseeds to ease imports.
China on Tuesday announced a preliminary anti-dumping duty on canola imports from Canada, a statement from the Commerce Ministry said. The provisional rate would be set at 75.8% and be effective from Thursday, the statement said. China, the world's largest canola importer, sources nearly all of its imports from Canada, but those supplies are now likely to be priced out by the provisional duties. Beijing announced the probe last September and it was initially set to conclude next month with a possible 6-month extension, in response to Ottawa's tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Lithium futures prices in China jumped on Tuesday for a fifth session to their highest in more than 1 year as battery company CATL has suspended operations at a major lithium mine after a license expired. China's most active lithium carbonate contract on the Guangzhou Futures Exchange touched an intraday high of 88,840 yuan, $12,359.32 per metric ton, the highest since July 23, 2024. Contemporary Amperex Technology said on Monday it had suspended production at a major lithium mine amid a broader crackdown on overcapacity.
The available stocks in warehouses registered with the London Metal Exchange saw massive inflows of China-made copper and India-made aluminium in July, which reduced the share of the Russian origin of both metals, LME data showed on Monday. Chinese smelters delivered copper to the LME stocks in July, sources with knowledge of the matter previously told Reuters, to ease tightness in the LME system, prompted by potential U.S. import tariffs. Washington then decided to exclude copper metal from its tariffs on copper products. The share of available copper stocks of Russian origin in the LME stocks slipped to 19% last month from 53% in June, while the amount fell to 24,825 metric tons from 31,225.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Chicago soybeans slid on Tuesday, giving up some gains from the previous session, as expectations of a bumper U.S. harvest weighed on prices. The drop erased part of the legumes Monday gains, which was sparked by US President Donald Trump's remarks that he hoped China would quadruple its soybean purchases. The most active soybean contract on the Chicago Board of Trade fell 1.1% to $10 a bushel, as of 0403 GMT, after climbing nearly 2.5% on Monday. Trump's statement supported prices in the last session, but reality is that US is losing market share in China, said one oilseed trader in Singapore.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.